Coffee Talk Tuesday. My name is Shalise Stevens, and I'm here with my co-host Trip Mitchell, coming from his bedroom because he's drugged up and in pain. So,
but aside from that, in wonderful spirits. It's funny how those two things go together.
And my guest today is the awesome Ashley Cox from Salt Lake Community College. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I wanted to have you on because you have, well, for one, you're just fun. You're one of the fun, sassy instructors that I have that I absolutely adore. And I think that you have a awesome story and you do a lot for the college, and with everything that's going on, was hoping to get your take on the whole experience with COVID and having to switch everything online and all that stuff. But first, I would love you to tell us a little bit about your, like, how you got to be where you are.
All right. You want the Cliff Notes version or you want the full version?
Well, we have a half an hour, so you give me whatever version you want.
I'll give you the one in the middle. So,
okay.
I'm originally from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, about an hour from New Orleans. I grew up on the beach. I attended Mississippi State University. At the time that I went to school 25 years ago, they were one of 4 universities with a program called Professional Golf Management. And that was what I chose to major in. You can see I'm wearing a Duke t-shirt. I've been a Duke fan since '86. I was admitted to Duke University, but at the time my parents couldn't afford it and I didn't want to be in the Air Force. My father was an ex-Army drill sergeant and that was enough military training for me. So I chose the golf business instead. I'm the first Black graduate of the golf management program at Mississippi State and the second to graduate in the country. I took a job at a golf course in Michigan, right on Lake Michigan. The summers were incredible. The winters were miserable. At the end of the season, I had to make a decision. I was either going to go to Florida, Arizona, or back to Mississippi State to work on my master's, and I chose to go back to Mississippi State and work for my master's degree. I was there for about a month, and I stumbled onto a job at a new golf management program in North Carolina called Campbell University. I applied for the job thinking there's no way on earth they're going to hire a 22-year-old to come be a faculty member at an institution, but they did it anyway. So I started teaching at Campbell in the summer, fall of 2001. So I did that for the better part of 10 years between the golf management program, and I finished my master's degree at Campbell, and so I also taught undergraduate and graduate marketing classes for them. Got a little bored and decided I needed another challenge, and so I enrolled in a sports management PhD program at North Carolina State University, who also had a golf management program. So I was helping them with their program as well. Unfortunately, my advisor and I had a falling out after 3 years, and I lost that fight. And so I was back on the job market. I went to work for a company in Raleigh, North Carolina called Global. The broad name is Global Value Commerce. They're probably more better known as globalgolf.com. They are a distributor for online retail stores. Back when I was with them, it was 7 stores. I think they've pared that down to maybe 3 or 4 stores, but they're essentially Amazon for the golf industry. I was probably the highest educated warehouse employee in the country. And when they recognized that, they thought we might ought to do something with this guy other than have him on the pick, pack, and ship team. So they actually sent me to Salt Lake City in February of 2012 to open their Western Distribution Center. And for a kid that grew up looking at the beach, driving through Wyoming in February is awesome.
Well, I'm really upset at the falling out, because you truly would have had one of the greatest titles ever, in that you would be a doctor of golf.
So
how cool would that be?
My personal email address is acpgaphd.
Okay, perfect.
I must admit, though, I am enrolled currently in a doctoral program at George Fox University, which I should finish sometime next year. So if you get with me about August or September of next year, I will be officially have a doctorate and still have my golf credentials. So,
well, golf is such an amazing sport. It was going through such a rocket ship to the moon for quite a few years, and a lot of it was tied to a great economy. But Tiger Woods, one individual, changed everything about golf. Being a fellow African American, can you talk to that and how it probably was very big positive influence on your career as well?
Well, it was a little of both. So Tiger and I are a year apart in age. So, we're more contemporaries than me being part of this crowd of people that came along following Tiger. However, when Tiger won the Masters in 1997, I was interviewed by the local television station in Columbus, Mississippi, about the importance of Tiger's win. And at the time, it was incredibly important, not only for the African American community, but just it changed the look of the game. It made the game a little bit more fun. I think it would be hyperbole to say that Tiger is the best athlete that's ever played golf, but he certainly was an exceptional athlete, period. And I think that made golf a little bit more cool at the time. There is a negative side to Tiger, and it's not the stuff that you see in the media. The negative side to Tiger is that Tiger helped the game grow too rapidly, too quickly. And I think that's part of why we see this retraction that's going on in the industry right now. I remember when I was in Michigan in 2000, the estimates were that they were opening almost a golf course a day. And it was certainly part of the economic boom. But again, Tiger made things popular. We hitched our wagon as an industry to this one person. And boy, when he failed, it really damaged the business. And that's another one of the sort of negative side effects of what happened with Tiger was that I think a lot of people turned away from the game. What we've been trying to figure out in golf for a long time is how do we had these people that we refer to as having latent demand, right? Like they know about the game, they're interested in the game, but they've not taken that step across to say, I want to learn and play the game. And when eyes were on Tiger, that was when demand was highest. And I think when he's not playing, people are less interested. And we've really struggled to have that next person step up and really take that mantle and be able to run with it and make golf popular again the way it was in the early 2000s. But there's no denying the positive impact that he had on growing the game of golf in America, especially, but worldwide too.
What do you think of the golf industry in Salt Lake? I have some friends involved, and they say we're really almost at a point where we have some contraction coming up. Too many courses, too many rounds available.
Well, so they probably made those comments to you before COVID-19 because they are loving it right now. With that being one of the few places that people can actually get out and social distance sort of properly if the courses are doing it right. I'll tell you one thing that I learned about golf in Salt Lake. Being here in the mountains, and I was in Denver before I became a permanent resident of Salt Lake City. Golf in the West public golf out here is really good. We don't have great public golf courses on the East Coast. You sort of have this clear separation between the haves and the have-nots, where it's either a high-end private club or it's a dump. The public golf courses out here, I use this as an example of people all the time. South Mountain Golf Club would be a high-end private club on the East Coast. The layout is really good. Obviously, it was designed to be a private club, and things fell apart with their real estate. At least that's my understanding, and so that's why it became a part of the county. But the layout is great. The views, obviously, from sitting on the side of the mountain, it would be a high-end private club, as would Mountaindale. And so to be able to access those courses for $50 on a weekend, that's stealing. You couldn't get away with that on the East Coast. Like in the East Coast, the image, if you said it was a $50 golf course, people would say that's a dump. So I think you're spoiled out here in some regards because public golf is pretty decent. Now, as far as retraction, I think once we see things settle down after this COVID-19 thing, it'll be interesting to see because golf is competing with another sport that's not inexpensive out here in skiing, right? And it's sort of, if you can afford one, can you afford the other? And if you can afford both, then you're sort of separating yourself away from the public golf courses. That's where you're looking at the private anyway. So that's a little bit of a conundrum that we don't really face on the East Coast because we don't have the type of mountains and access to ski that you have here. But the golf courses here are actually pretty good. I have not played a public golf course here where I say, wow, this place is terrible.
And Shalise, do you get around and play?
I was just going to say, I don't think I've ever admitted this to AC, but I hate golf.
Why?
Well, okay, for one, because I get bored. So maybe I just haven't had a good teacher. But walking and swinging a stick at a ball does not. I've done it one time before, and it might have been the people that I was with because it was really lame, and we weren't drinking. But I was only like 18 years old, I think, too. But it was just super boring, and I didn't like it, and I never wanted to do it again. So maybe, I don't know, I should give it another try.
You are not in their demographic at this point, but golf would love to have you back.
Yeah, it would. And you're a part of the demographic that, while it's not the direct target market, it certainly is a part of the target, because essentially the target market that we've always chased in the golf industry is literally dying, right? Like, you got a bunch of old white guys that are now in their 50s, 60s, 70s that are just not able to get out and do it as much as they used to. And so what's next? Who's going to be that next group to come and sustain the industry? I think for years we've missed targeting some demographics like females. The LGBTQ community, has plenty of disposable income and I think interest in the game, and we've just not reached out to a lot of those marginalized groups that could potentially help sustain the business. But we're struggling as an industry right now. Like, it's I think things are probably fairly flat, but we'll see some contraction continue because people are doing other things.
And
So,
Shalise, golf is one of the few sports where a lot of dead people play. And by that, what happens is you get a group of guys and they have an automatic tee time. Let's say it's Mondays at 8 a.m. Well, the gentleman whose name it is will die at some point because it's old white people, as our guest said. And so what happens, that name lives on for years and years and years. So it's a funny thing where you get that one tee time and you will do anything to keep it.
Yep.
So, and this goes on all over the country. And one of the cool things about golf are golf stories are so, and there's some writers out there. Dan Jenkins, who just passed last year, is the dean of golf, but
yep.
Rick Riley, there were so many people doing some great books on golf and the stories and the humor.
Yep.
So you know what I do love? I did go last year to do a fundraising event, and I got to be like ride in the golf cart and take pictures with my friend who's a photographer. So we went around and we got to like be the entertainment. That was fun for me. And I'm actually thinking that maybe at one point I can do a golf fundraiser for my Rainy Days Foundation.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too is that we've painted this picture of this boring, stuffy game, right? Like, and you don't see anybody on the PGA Tour with like full sleeve tattoos.
Right.
And
well,
yet,
I mean, Happy Gilmore tried to like.
Right. Right. And ask any golf pro in the country how mad they are about the Happy Gilmore movie because of the number of people that have broken golf clubs or hurt themselves trying to Happy Gilmore it on the range at their facility and then want to sue the club.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to find out more about your career now at Salt Lake Community College.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back to Coffee Talk Tuesday. I'm Shalise Stevens. I'm here again with Tripp and with AC, and we are talking golf. Well, we were talking golf. I do want to know, AC, what could you say to me that would get me to be interested in ever picking up a golf club again?
If you enjoy the outdoors.
Okay, I do.
It certainly is see, here's the thing for me. I think that and now I'm drawing a blank on who wrote the book. Golf is a Good Walk Spoiled.
Mark Twain, wasn't it? Isn't that Mark Twain who said that?
Well, I think he said it, and then somebody wrote a book about it.
Oh, okay.
And I think this idea of golf being a good walk spoiled, I think part of it was we built golf courses that were not designed to be walked, that are very difficult for people to walk physically because of the way the layout and the length of the course. But it's an opportunity. Golf is a unique thing because it tests your integrity, right? Like, you are supposed to call penalties on yourself. You're supposed to keep your own rules. You're supposed to make sure that everybody else in the group is following the rules. And you certainly, when you're with your friends, I'm not saying you need to be a police officer on the golf course, but there's a level of expectation with integrity in the game. And so spending time on the golf course with another person gives you an intimate look at that individual. We used to teach a class called Golf for Business and Life that was sponsored by the PGA of America. And the things that we would teach our students about being on the golf course with people is that if you dislike the way a person is on the golf course, that's probably closer to the real person that you're going to experience. And so that intimate look in the individual lets you go, do I want to do business with this person? Do I trust this person? Is this person got the level of integrity that I can appreciate and that I want to have involved with me and my organization? So, but back to your direct question, one, just go out and I think this is the biggest thing. Golfers have a tendency to overestimate their ability. And if you went out there and just said, I'm not any good, you'd have a lot more fun. Right. Lower your expectations, right? Like, I have a buddy, I love him dearly. When we play golf together, he's yelling or throwing a club or hitting his golf bag. And I turn to him and I go, you're not good enough to be mad on the golf course. And so I think that becomes, it's a game that you can't master, and perfection is unattainable. And I'm using all of the cliche terms, but those are the realistic terms. If you put it in that kind of perspective when you walk on the golf course, I think you'd be better off. I think you'd enjoy it more. Just go out and have a good walk and have a beer and enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's probably the people that I would be with too. Like, make sure that it's a good group of people that could have fun and not be obnoxious or annoying. And
Shalise, it's a sport that drives business. Yep. Because if you're a sales rep,
literally drives.
Yeah, no, I mean it is a chance. So if you look at it from a sales rep, purchasing guy's perspective, in a normal sales call, they might have 8 to 12 minutes literally in front of this gentleman or lady, whoever. If you can get that individual on a golf course, you've got 4 or 5 hours with them.
Wow, I think we had a lesson on that, AC.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you can work yourself out of an out. So some of the things that people do on a golf course is blatant cheating.
Yeah.
And Rick Riley wrote a wonderful book about an individual called Commander in Cheat, where he basically went through all the ways that this gentleman cheats on the golf course. And it's all been, so it really is, it's a way to look into someone's real soul.
Yeah. Do you golf, Trip?
I do. But I used to golf quite a bit more, and I've gotten away from it. In Salt Lake, you've got to kind of make choices, and AC pointed out. So my working as a host at Snowbird kind of takes away a lot of that time. And if I were to golf during the summers after doing that, my wife would kill me.
Right.
Yeah, you need to make it to at least that year mark.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Caesar's Palace has it making it to 364 days. So we'll see. But AC, when you're in town here teaching young people about how to become golf professionals, what's the most important lesson for them?
The key about being a golf professional is obviously you have to have a joy in seeing people enjoy themselves. It's not an easy career path. It's not as easy as it used to be. There was a time where being a golf professional was a much more, I think, prestigious position to have. We've changed some of the dynamics of the industry with regard to the structure and the pay. The number of hours that you work is pretty long. So you have to, when you get into the game, it's because you really enjoy, I mean, when you get into working in the game, you really enjoy it, and you enjoy the interaction with people. Your golf pro becomes like a psychiatrist in some regards, right? You share stuff. I've had to tell people, look, don't share anything with me that I'm going to have to testify in court, but that's how open they tend to get sometimes when they are sharing what's going on in their lives because of that intimate relationship that's built. But you got to enjoy the game. You've got to enjoy the people. And you got to know that, that one thing I think that's missed, and I recognized this a long time ago when I was working at the club in Michigan, on everybody else's day off, they come to the golf course, and it's important. It becomes an important part of those other individuals' lives because they're looking for something to do on their day off. And so if you can help people continue to do that, I think you'll be happy in the industry. And I think that's what a lot of the guys that I know here in the Utah section, they love people. They love being around people, and they love the interaction with the people that they deal with. And so that's part of what makes them continue to stay in the business.
So, and what's your handicap, by the way?
Last time I checked, it was a 0.6.
Wow. You can flat out play.
Sometimes. Hell, I've been doing it for 33 years. I better be able to play. If I played the game as long as I did and sucked, there's something wrong with me.
Well, but very few professionals, very, very few play to that level. I would say probably most working PGA professionals at clubs are probably a 6 or a 7, aren't they?
Yeah, probably somewhere between a 3 and a 6 is a safer guess on them because they're working so many hours, right? Like that's one of the negative parts of the industry is that you don't get to play as much as you would probably like to or expect to. My game has certainly gotten a lot better now that I've moved over into teaching college full time, and that's more my primary responsibility, which opens up the opportunity for me to go out and play a little bit more. And I think I don't put as much pressure on myself when I'm playing as I used to because I don't do this for a living any longer, right? Like this isn't what is putting food on the table at night. This is more of something that's fun than it is a competition like it used to be.
Did you ever think of playing for a living?
I did, and I had a lot of buddies that have been on and off all of the tours, anywhere from the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour, and I've worked with some young ladies that were on the Symetra Tour and the LPGA Tour, and it's a hard life, man. It's a lot of travel, it's a lot of alone time. You have to be driven to practice. That was the thing for me. I hate practice. I'd rather play golf every day. My dad can go to the driving range for 8 hours and just be content. I don't even like to hit balls before I play a normal round with my buddies. If our tee time is at 1 o'clock, I'm showing up at 12:56 and I'm running to the first tee and teeing it up. That's how much I dislike practice. So that's I was completely Allen Iverson when it came to my ideas of practice and golf, and that's part of the reason why I'm hanging out talking to you guys and not waiting on the tour to open back up. But
well, the funny part, Shalise, what happens is that they have a senior tour that's been going on for 30 plus years. And I had friends who were in their 30s, and they would say to me, you know what, I'm going to take a year off, concentrate on golf, and then qualify for the senior tour. And as AC knows, that's ridiculous because there are 250 guys making a living who are their age who aren't going to give up a spot to get on the senior tour. And the senior tour has a much smaller field. So when it comes to golf, men are delusional.
I've had guys ask me, they're like, so, you're getting closer to that age. Are you going to try out for the senior tour? And I said, well, there's one little roadblock. There's a guy, you might know him. His name's Tiger Woods. He's a year older than me. So if I would try to qualify for the senior tour, I got to play that dude, and I can't play that dude. So no, I'm not going to try.
So AC, what took you from doing the golf to now? I know that they offered you a job here, but what gave you the passion? Because now you teach sales and marketing and all that. So what brought you into this world from the golf world?
So when I was working at Campbell in North Carolina, as I said, I finished my master's degree and they needed me to teach undergraduate marketing classes. And so, the first time in the classroom, it was a lot of fun. It was fun interacting with the students. It was fun getting to know the students. It was fun to see the students have those aha moments when they go, oh, that's why that's the way that it is. But what it really hit me, due to some circumstances that the college couldn't avoid, I had to teach their graduate marketing classes as well. And the very first day of my first graduate class, the guy sitting dead center front row, as I introduced everybody to the room, he's the only one sitting front row, and he says, I said, so tell us about yourself. And he says, well, I just retired from 35 years in the U.S. Army. And in my brain, I go, what the hell am I going to teach this guy? Right? Like, this guy has been in the military longer than I've been alive. And at the end of the semester, he came up to me and he said, this is the third course that I've had in this program, and it's by far the best. And so that was that validation that told me that this is where I need to be. Admittedly, I got a little narcissism in me. I love being on stage. And so that's part of what I enjoy about being in the classroom, is that all eyes are on me. And so that feeds my ego some.
I don't know anyone else like that.
But yeah, right. Like, I think we all got it. That's why we are doing it. And so it's that interaction with the students, and it's seeing them get it, right? Like, because the systems and the way that, especially marketing and economics, the way the country works, they sort of box you into certain things. The better you are at figuring out what they're trying to make you do, the easier it is for you to make decisions. And when I help my students with that, that makes me happy. I know I could make more money doing something else, but I don't think that I would enjoy the quality of life, the interaction with the students, and just I love my job. So
that's awesome. That's what I love about Salt Lake Community College, is that the majority of my instructors are there because they just love it, and that it makes a huge difference. And it makes at least for me, it makes me want to do better, and it makes me more engaged, and it makes me figure out, like, how can I apply this to my everyday life too, because I don't know, you guys make it fun, and it's awesome. So being in the classroom, speaking of that, now once COVID hit, you had to put all your classes online, and a lot of the class can be online anyway, and different classes, but how was that transition, and what do you think is going to be the new normal for Salt Lake Community College moving forward?
I think the new normal, at least for the remainder of, and this is not me speaking on behalf of the college, so I want to make sure that that's clear. This is completely my opinion. I have a feeling that for the remainder of this calendar year, up until we get into the spring of 2021, I think we're going to be either online or in this type of lecture broadcast via Zoom. I think we're in a unique spot at SLCC because we're not a residential campus, right? So you don't have that sort of, as people like to refer to it, that petri dish that occurs in the dorms and with people communal living. We get to go home every day. That doesn't mean that we're not going to go home and infect somebody else or get it from somebody else. But I think because we're not in as close a quarters as you have at residential colleges, that certainly makes a difference. But I personally don't know that it's worth the risk of us just throwing a bunch of people back in a classroom together right now, right? Like, there's just too many question marks out there. So I see this continuing at least through the fall semester. And it's an adjustment. It's not as easy, I think, to remain engaged when you're doing it in this way. If for no other reason, look, it's like the people that, when this first happened, people would go on Twitter and say, did you take a bath today? Because so many people stopped showering, stopped shaving, stopped brushing their teeth. It's like everybody's life changed so much. And I think it's important to get up and get dressed and feel like you're actually going to work, even if that's not the case. So it was an easier transition for me and a lot of my colleagues in school business, because we were already developing our courses for online anyway. I know a lot of my colleagues in some of the other departments struggled because they had a lot of heavy lifting to do to get their classes ready to go online, and a small window to do it in. So we'll all get better. What some things that'll be interesting. What's going to happen with tuition? What's going to happen with pay? Right? Like, there's a lot of big question marks that are going to come out of this thing because it's so new to everybody. You just don't know what to do.
Right.
It is nice that it happened at a time where technology allows for us to still be able to communicate in these ways. So I think that's part of the change.
How have your students reacted? Are they stepping up to the plate?
For the most part, you have a couple of students that fell behind a little bit just because it's easy to, right? Like instead of you being used to going to sit in class at 8:30 on Monday, Wednesday morning, you have to force yourself to get up to sit in your bed and talk to your teacher online, or in the case for some of my classes, I just switched them all to online. So the students just did the work that was already integrated, and I recorded a few lecture videos, and that was the way we did it to get through this semester. But I think some students, it's such a new experience that they didn't know what to do. And so as we're all learning how to do this, I think we'll all get better at it. And I think that the students will adjust to it. If for no other reason that most of our student population is more suited to the social game than those of us of older generations that are trying to figure out how do we connect this Zoom thing, so.
Well, the biggest struggle for me, and luckily I kind of busted out my classes as fast as possible because having to homeschool the kids and do my own schoolwork. And then I had a break for a while, and now semester is starting next week again. Actually, when this airs, it will already have started. But like trying to figure out how I'm going to do all of this, I'm like, I just did it. I can do it again. And just that self-managing. And luckily the kids don't have that much time left in school, but they have all summer. So
I think it's important for us as faculty members to make sure, and this is probably something that some do it better than others, but I think it's our responsibility now to take a little more ownership of our students, right? Like to be available, to reach out, to say, hey, are things going okay? And make sure we pay attention to the students that need that additional attention, because
right.
In the face-to-face classroom, it's more comfortable for that student to come to me after class and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, this is going on in my life. And now they're even more alone in some regards, right? So how do we make sure that we don't lose those students?
Yeah. Well, AC, we are at time, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and doing what you can do in the community to, educate our people and also get us out on the golf course if you're lucky. If I ever go out on the golf course, you better be with me.
Okay. Look, there's one rule. I don't care if you play bad, just play fast.
Yeah,
that actually works for me because then I won't get bored.
Right.
Yes.
Shalise, however,
What?
That's an area where hot girls think that they can overcome their crappy at being golf. No man wants to take a beginner woman on the course. She could be the greatest woman in the world. No guy wants it. AC, back me up on this.
I got your back on that one.
Okay,
I can tell you this. I early on in my career, like I said, I have had some really good players, especially female players that I've worked with, and I never wanted to date any of my students because that's just a weird dynamic at home, right? Like I don't want to have to yell at you about being bad on the golf course and then try to come home and hang out with you. So I was like, yeah, I'm not. My wife doesn't play. So when people say, "Does your wife play?" and I say no, and they go, "Why not?" and I go, "That's why I married her."
Well, and on the LPGA tour, there are a couple examples of where the wife is the boss, she's the player, and the husband is the caddy.
Right.
And that's got to be a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I want no part of that. I want no part of that.
Oh, gosh.
Well, thanks for doing the show, AC. You've been a delight. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. When you get better, let's find our way to the golf course.
Let's do it. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for watching and listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.